In three, two, one. Welcome back, everyone, to Framecast number 32, a Warframe and a special Framecast today. If you like what listening to the Framecast, and especially if you like listening to it live on Twitch, make sure you stick around till the end when we're going to be discussing something about the future of the Framecast. If you're watching this on YouTube, skip around to the end if you're not interested in this topic. But if you do care about the Framecast, stick around till the end because it's kind of important, and we'd like to have your input too. That being said, Drew, how's it going, man?
Literally about to take it. Yeah, I'm good.
That's why I was asking. No, actually, I hadn't seen it yet. But today we are talking Warframe. It's been a while since we've done a Warframe Framecast. We started out with the first 10 episodes being about this game, and seeing how we've had Railjack come out over the last couple of months ago in December. Right now, we're seeing them moving on more and more with the latest Devstream, especially the one that came last Friday. And you mentioned some things about it. What do you like to get into when it comes to Devstream 138? What was it?
Yeah, 138. You're right. So one of the things that I really wanted to kind of touch on, which I'm not quite sure if it was within D's control or what have you, but it was the announcement to when TennoCon is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not realistically the end of the world, but honestly, it is a bit problematic how late it's been announced. So for myself and other people around the world, it costs a fair bit of cheddar to head over to Canada. And it only being a month delayed in terms of an announcement, it's costing me an extra 300 quid in flights alone.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know. I mean, I assumed that the event would be on the first weekend of July, like it has every year so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I did realize that the first weekend of July this year is actually the 4th of July, which is a huge holiday in America and things like that. So, I imagine they delayed it by a week because of that. But it is a huge deal to me, at least. And I imagine to a lot of other people, because I know other friends here in the UK that were considering going, but now it's just like, we can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. No,
So,
plane tickets do get crazy expensive. I've seen it as well, but they can go for $400 to $500 if you're very, very early, which is November, December. But if you're booking later, you're gonna go up to $800 to $1,000 if you're from Europe, which is spending $1,000 in plane tickets alone, let alone entry to the convention, let alone entry to
Or
your
hotel,
hotel, food, all sorts of things that make it a really expensive trip. And that being said, for a one-day convention, I don't know, I can't seem to justify it if I'm not I've done it a couple of times because I was a creator, and because of that I got access to the convention for free, and I knew that in the days leading up and the days afterwards there would be a bunch of people I could hang out with. So those were the reasons that I went. But if I were to go and not do the hangout things around it, I can't justify it. It's a single day convention for one single video game, which is fun, but for $2,000 plus, that's crazy money.
I know, and in all honesty, this is why I didn't go to EGX.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I think it was October last year, because they'd moved it to London, and London is so much more expensive than any other part of the UK. There's, so a friend from work had informed me that there's actually an EGX event, I think, in Berlin or maybe Belgium, probably quite possibly Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked it out. It would be cheaper to go to Belgium and do EGX there than it would be to do it in London.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just like London prices are insane. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I'm obviously not faulting them for it. I wish they could have announced it earlier. But let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
So, did you watch the Devstream perchance?
No, I haven't.
Understandable.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the more exciting things that they announced at Devstream was the first operation for Warframe. Now, if anyone knows me, they know I love me some community-based event stuff where I can get a statue at the end of it, right? And I think it's nice to hear that there is one coming soon, considering the last one we had. Like, let's not count. Oh shoot! The last one, the last one, not official one. I want to say the last one was, oh god, something debt. It was the one with the Jupiter rework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is like June last year. So that's
no. It was like April. It was like March, April time. It was much earlier than June.
The Hostile Mergers one? Hold on.
Yes, yeah. Hostile Mergers. I'm sure it was way before June. I mean, I could be wrong. Michelle's looking it up.
Yeah, I made a video with Sandy around that time. I think it was June, May, June, around that time. But
because I'm sure the Jupiter rework came out in April. End of April.
Let me go take a look.
I thought you were already taking.
Yeah, I am taking a look. But
so regardless, while Michelle's looking at that, the event before that. Oh god, we ended up. Oh, are you gonna bring it up on?
It was. I put it up on the 31st of May, 2019. So that's like.
No.
Yeah. So it must have been like third week of May or something. But anyway, when it comes to an operation in Warframe, I think to start off, one thing which I think is really important for me when it comes to Warframe is that Railjack, the big update on which a lot of people have been waiting for the past 1.5 years. Was not a great update. We've already talked about that. We've already had a Framecast about that. So if you want to hear our thoughts and opinions on that, go over to that Framecast. I think it was 20-something. However, I think that regardless of how that update was, regardless of how well or bad or whatever you think about it, I think that the real main important thing is how they move on from that. I think that mostly these days we do see a lot of companies fuck up with things. We do see a lot of things which don't end up being the way that people envisioned them to be. But the most important thing is, how do you move on? And do you acknowledge that things went wrong? Do you acknowledge that there is something that's left to be desired? What are your priorities moving on? What will be your action? And I think that the biggest example of things being done right is with the Sonic movie that pretty much just came out a couple of days ago, where they actually did turn around on the bad feedback and said, we're going to fix it, spend $5 million on fixing it, and now it's been quite a successful movie. So, what I feel with Warframe at the moment, I haven't really watched a lot of dev streams because I've already stopped watching dev streams for like 2 years, since I feel like they announce things which might come, but who knows when they come and if they come. So I'd rather see action in the real game. But I haven't heard, as far as I'm aware, any like direct detailed response to Railjack, and like how do they plan to fix this? How do they plan to make this minimum viable product, not even minimum viable product, with a single mission type, with very little content behind it? How do they intend to push that forward? Are they gonna fix it? Are they gonna work on it? Are they just gonna leave this in the state and move on? And so far, I feel I've seen a lot of different things which feel weird to me. So the first dev stream I've heard a lot about, we're touching on Kufa Lichers. We're touching on Fortuna primary weapons. We're touching on skins, and it's like, right, shouldn't this be the stream where you talk about, hey, we did an oopsie, we're gonna do everything we can to fix it? No, like everything, it's like everything but it failed. And then right now they're talking about an operation. Did they give a date about this operation? Did they give a date?
No.
They didn't?
No.
Did they? I've heard they talked about a new Nightwave season. Is there a date for that?
No.
So,
Like,
so,
you
so
can't.
why?
No, no, no.
Why,
No, no, you can't give dates on this stuff.
But
Look
why
exactly
announce it
what
then?
happened. Because to give people the understanding that, like, they're actually doing stuff.
Yeah, but like,
You know, you've just turned around and just slammed them because they haven't actually said anything about Railjack.
So,
like, yeah, okay, but at least tell us you're doing something.
Well, so, okay, so like the thing that I feel about is that because like we've already seen like the Railjack was announced and didn't turn out the way that it was announced, which I think is a really big problem when it comes to like your reliability and like what do you announce and what actually ends up in the game. And there are so many more things which are supposedly in the works, which is a new war, which is Planes of Your Fury, and then more new things which they're announcing. And it's like, right, if you're announcing these things now, it feels more to me like they're throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, so that the community moves its attention away from Railjack and moves it towards like the new operation, which might be coming at some point, or the new Nightwave, which might be coming at some point because the intermission has been hella long. And it just, I don't know how that response feels a little bit weird to me. But I don't know whether that comes across the same to you or whether you have a different view on it.
Okay, I do have a different view on it.
Yeah.
However, this may turn the whole point moot, as the operation actually involves things like the squad link system, improvements to Railjack. However, not focusing on that, I do think it is important. Like, this isn't something new. DE has been chasing the community since the year dot. When the community talks about something, they will follow it, right? When the community says that, they don't like a system, DE changes it. When the community says, stop giving us grind, give us challenge, DE addresses it. They always react to what the community demands, right? The community isn't demanding for Railjack stuff. I've not seen anything of that. The community has pretty much already given up on Railjack, like I thought they would, and they're focusing more on the Kuva system, right? So I completely get why DE hasn't just completely dumped all the resources into doing the Railjack system because of the mess that it came out as. We need something. We can't just.
It just feels so weird to me that you're working 1.5 years into creating something which you tout as like the big update. And then it releases in a very poor state, and then like it's just gonna be left there, like seriously, like I'm happy with things like an operation bringing in Squad Link, which might involve Railjack. However, Railjack itself is not a substantial viable thing in the general public's eye.
It will involve Railjack because they have said it will involve Railjack.
Yeah, but wouldn't that just become like Arcwing 2.0 that's just going to hound us in every single update where no one really wants to do it, but they're just taking it along with it because it needs to remain relevant?
Well, no, I mean, Arcwing 2.0 isn't a thing. The transportation system of Arcwing is a thing, which they're trying to address. They've tried to address it. But you can't turn around and just piss off your entire player base by saying, like, oh, no, we don't like that, therefore you're not going to do it anymore. Because, I mean, look what happened with the whole crap. What was it called? Where they made stamina deplete so much faster. That didn't last 24 hours. Right? I never got to even try it because there was so much of a sting. Right? So I think they bit off more than they could chew. I think it would have been fine if there wasn't a Christmas release because I don't think Railjack was in a fit condition to come out the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? However, I'd rather hear that they're actually working on something. I mean, I've been playing Kuva Liches where everyone else has forsaken them, rather than do anything Railjack related. I've stopped Railjack. I stopped Railjack before the end of the holidays because, it's obviously not finished, and I'd rather not play an incomplete product. I'd rather wait.
So when it comes to Railjack right now, you're saying that the is doing all right by moving on to the things that people care about, like when it comes to like Kuvaliches, when it comes to, I mean, Nightwave, of course. It's been ridiculous how long that intermission has been going on. They could have just as well like repeated like season 1 or something, because it's been going on for an insane amount of time.
Well, the intermission gives the season 1 rewards, so I mean. I said exactly the same thing. I was just like, oh, shoot, it does.
it's just, oh my god. Anyway, we can talk about Nightwave later. But you would say that it's better that they focus on things that people care about more than that they focus on Railjack, because people have already kind of like given up on it.
I think it is, yes, I have said that, and I think it is important that they see Railjack through to the end. Otherwise, we'll just end up with another Arcwing, 1.0.
So how do you see that? Because on the one hand, you say I want them to go with what people like, and on the other hand, you say I want them to see it through, which seem to be somewhat conflicting to me at the moment.
Well, right now there is a minority of people that still play Railjack.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that haven't actually given up on it yet. Much like there was an even smaller minority of people that were playing Arcwing missions, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, divide the team, right? So that at least some people are working on Railjack, and get the focus of the team making content that the people can actually play with. Because as soon as DE releases content, the player base will just chew all the way through it, eat the entire thing, go, that was delicious, and then demand more immediately afterwards. Right? Do the smaller content first, while in the background working on the bigger content. Because the problem with Railjack was they stopped doing the smaller content and just gave us one big thing that was incomplete. Everything that they release is incomplete. But this was especially incomplete.
So don't you feel like, okay, so on the one hand, I can understand it in the sense of they released something that people didn't like, which was incomplete, which wasn't something minimum viable product. So instead of trying to fix that and focus your attention on that, which would have as a result that in the coming few weeks or months, the time that you spend on fixing it, people will play less and less and less because it's not what they're interested in. Give them instead like smaller content, other different content which they might be more interested in to keep them around. I can understand that, but on the other hand, I find it strange in a sense, because I think that you make a very compelling argument, which is very logical. But on the other hand, I find it very strange that you create something, that you work on something for such a long time, you make it such a big release, and then it totally doesn't work out the way that it was intended to, the way that it was promoted, the way that people anticipated it, and then it's like, well, moving on, which is kind of what it feels like, even if it's like a secondary team in the background, which I highly doubt, because I don't feel Warframe has a really great track record with having secondary teams working in the background.
Well, okay, fine. That might be the case. But look at the way the rest of the world, the rest of, what's it called? I want to say capitalism works. If something is underperforming, you either A, you fix it, or B, you ditch it. Right? If a TV show is doing poorly, you stop making the TV show. You don't just keep going because there's like 3 people, it's not worth the money. right? It costs way too much money to produce, right? So you need to make sure that your player base is still engaged, is still there, and is still waiting for you to do Railjack, right? If, however, say we don't get we don't get any updates until the next Railjack fix, which could be in 4-5 months' time, right? Are you going to hang around that long with nothing to do?
No.
Right, exactly. So at least this way, yeah, okay, fine. It might be tiny stuff. It might be tiny stepping stones working towards Railjack or not even involving Railjack, right? But at least it's moving the player base forward so that they have something to do to keep your game alive. I mean, look at oh god, Heroes of the Storm, right? Heroes of the Storm stopped receiving any heroes, and the player base just went, oh well, you know, you've given up on the game, we've given up on the game, end of.
Well, I fully agree if stuff comes out. Like, I actually did go back to Warframe last week to get that Kuva bow thingy because it explodes, and people said it was cool.
The Brahma.
Yes. However, I can't say that I feel the same for things that they're announcing. So when it comes to a new Nightwave series, I don't understand why that's being announced. Like, that should be out. Or, like, it's like, it's been going on for so bloody long that we have a random intermission. That it's like, this needs to be out at some point. Like, announcing it. Like, I feel with announcements, especially because of what Railjack has shown. Where Railjack has been announced for 2 years in a row, and then...
Nope, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to use your own words against you, good sir, because I don't want you to make any mistakes. You said earlier that Sonic the Hedgehog revealed its original design, looked god-awful. They spent, was it another 5 million, did you say?
Yeah, I think I saw 5 million.
Yeah, another 5 million to redo the whole of the 3D animation for Sonic, and it's come out as one of, if not the best video game adaptation at box office to date, right? They teased the product before it was released, and then they saw the backlash from the community and sorted it out, right? Does that not indicate a viable reason to tease the next Nightwave, the next operation?
Not necessarily. I can see where you're coming from, but what I would say is that it would be as though the producers of the Sonic movie would tease the Sonic movie, the original one. People would get upset about it. They'd say, we fix it, and then they tease 10 other things. So, like, for me, it's like, if they go ahead and they spend 6-12 months fixing Railjack, and it comes around as like the Sonic movie that beats all the box office, awesome. However, they have shown, like, right now with announcements, that whenever they announce something, like the Railjack update has broken a lot of trust in the things that they announce for me, because they've already shown in 2018 they announced Railjack for the first time. Then 2019 they announced it again. Then they announced New War for Christmas. Then that gets swapped around with Railjack, and then Railjack is a complete utter mess. And it's like, okay, so what are you announcing? And when you announce something, what will actually be there when you announce it, and will it be in the way that you announce it? It's like, well, like, they've built up like a reputation when it comes to the things that you announce, that you're following through with that, and now they've shown a couple of times that they didn't follow through with that. So then I wonder, whenever they show things off, it's like, what guarantees that you will follow through with this within a reasonable expected time period?
I get where you're coming from, right? There have been instances where they've teased. Okay, here's another one that they've teased. They teased this absolutely years ago, which is Nathaniel, the boss fight.
Oh yeah,
right. We still haven't seen Nathaniel, the boss fight. Personally, I'd rather not fight Nathaniel, because I find it so damn confusing of whether or not a boss lives or dies. Right? I don't like it that, you know, I have that ambiguity. The So I think it is always down to the player base. They are constantly analyzing what the community is talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if a DE staff member comes in and listens to what we're saying, and like, are we talking about the operations? Are we talking about Protea? Are we talking about Railjack? Are we talking about, primed kit guns? Sorry, primary kit guns. What are we in fact talking about? Because whatever is on the lips of the community should be on the forefront or on the forward step of what DE works on, right?
I would disagree with that, especially in light of Railjack, because let's suppose that this is the approach that we do, is we always go with what's on the forefront of the community's minds. Then every time that something releases which is subpar, you cannot expect the community to continue to be on the forefront with something which is subpar. So like, it doesn't surprise me that there's a minority of people that play Railjack now, because like, yeah, like, it's not the thing that it was made out to be. It is not what people were looking for, so they can't continue to like all play that. Thus, it's not on the forefront of it. So the thing which I feel is a bit of an issue with this mentality is that if something releases which is not in the desired state, then there is no reason to move forward with that, because it won't be on the forefront of the community's mindset. So you will end up, which, I mean, Warframe already has done quite a bit, you will end up with unfinished systems. And I think that that's a not very desirable state.
Is it not a very desirable state? I mean, like, okay, we have games like World of Warcraft. They literally have on the box art. I wish I could go get it, but I don't know where it is right now. The box art of Warcraft 3: The Frozen Throne, second expansion, that there would be a dance studio, right? They have that on the box art, never released with the expansion. It never came out in later updates of the expansion. And you know what? No one cares, right? It's like, God, how do I get the idea that, oh, look, this is another incomplete thing that a lot of people can spot, right? I really do genuinely get that. But at the same time, there are so many features that are more important, right? Look at the focus trees. Look at the operator focus, the focus schools, right? That could have been something that they could have expanded massively, right? Yet the slightest hint of, hey, let's have a Nightwave objective that is, you have to leave your Warframe in the starting room and you have to do the whole thing as your operator. Nope, massive uproar. Nope, don't like that. Don't like that. I'm not playing my Warframe. I'm not getting my gun out. Oh, I don't like that.
That is so crazy, because literally I did that as a challenge with Jiso, and it's so much fun to go back to like lower level and use your fucking operator. It makes things so much more engaging.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making, though, right? People don't like it. They won't move forward. Sorry, the majority of people don't like it. They won't forward with it. The majority of people don't care about the talent trees of, like, I've only got the waybounds. I don't care about the whole thing. I only care about the bare minimum, right? And that's the same with most players. They only care about what is in their best interest. They want to feel like the almighty Gundam that can destroy mobile suits in droves. I nearly said giant robots. Loz would have killed me for that. You need to have this power fantasy, right?
But I think that it's a more drastic problem than what you're pointing at with World of Warcraft, where something that was shown in the box art didn't make it in. I think that it's a more persistent problem within Warframe, where it's actually like half finished elements within the game.
I have an even better one for World of Warcraft, right? So one of the interesting things for World of Warcraft is the immersion in the world, right? So back with Wrath of the Lich King, with Burning Crusade and Vanilla WoW, so I'm going backwards, you would level up and then you would have your skill available to you. You would have to travel back to a major city, which wasn't particularly hard, right? And then you would talk to a trainer, and the trainer would teach you the skill, right? They would train you so you were able to, right? But people didn't like that. People complained. People were bored. They didn't like having to travel. They thought, ugh. And thus, you just got the skill, right? In World of Warcraft, you used to have, right, so rogues would have 2 resources, which was energy and combo points. This is as, oh god. No, that was just rogues. Druid Catform would have energy and combo points. Warlocks would have mana, but they'd have to steal souls from the enemies. And over the years, every class now has 2 resources. When none of them started like this. Only the rogues had 2 resources, and the Catform druids. Now every class, I think apart from warriors, has 2 resources. And it's just, they are homogenizing. You know what the word homogenizing?
Yeah, I'm aware.
For anyone else that doesn't know, homogenizing means where they make everything the same, right? They are homogenizing the entirety of the character experience in World of Warcraft. And it is dull. It is boring. There is nothing unique about it. You may play a rogue, or you could play a paladin. This paladin should be lawful good, should enforce the light's will. Rogue steals, murders, and does whatever it wants, right? But they act as if they're exactly the same. Oh god, a motionless doll, a marionette, on the whims of a player that has no interest in the world.
Well, I can somewhat appreciate the dullness in the sense of I don't like it. I'd rather have that things are have their own character, but I can see how we've seen that with Arcwing as well, where one blink of one Arcwing gets changed to everyone has it now, or a vacuum gets changed to all the things have it now, because people just want comfort without feeling like they're forced to do something. Those are things that happen. It kind of deteriorates from the game, but I think that Warframe has bigger problems when it comes to unfinished things, which ends up because of this approach of we follow what the group mentality has. Go ahead.
You just said a bigger problem than the unfinished things. Do you mean because of the unfinished?
I think that there is a difference between the don't homogenizing things, or not in. Okay, so you were talking about the homogenization of characters within World of Warcraft, because of the community desires, and things that aren't implemented, that are stated on the box art but have never been put in the game. Those 2 things I find less egregious in a sense than what Warframe has been doing, because either it's Carrier and Vacuum, or the Arcwing and Blink. It's fine, those things happen, but it's it changes everything across the board, but you still have the same things. They'll just be a little bit different. What you have with Warframe, though, is that if you count quests, if you count Arcwing, if you count Plains of Eidolon, Plains of Fortuna, and you have Railjack, those are 6 major things which have kind of been left in a rather unfinished state. And because of that, I think we've spoken before about the very wide tree, but it creates a very, very confusing state of gameplay. Let me give, for example, one of the open worlds. Right now, the open worlds have been put very early on in the game. I don't have a problem with that, because you want the content to be accessible to new players that come in, fine. However, what happens a lot, and I've heard a lot about these stories, where new players come into the game, they have no idea where to go, and they find Plains of Eidolon is one of their stories, or one of their nodes, and they assume there's one thing which I have to play until the end. But the thing never really ends itself. Fortuna would have had an amazing opportunity for having a start, an introduction with what's his face, the guy that gets ripped apart. No, legs. Yeah, that one. And then like you start to pay off their debts, and then you fight the spiders, and then you take down Nevanyo. It's like that's an entire story. If you complete that story, then that's a great completed node where people know they're done and they can move on with the star chart. However, it's still in this like weird fake state where it's like, is there development? Is there not development? That people don't know what it is. It's kind of there, and it's kind of like interrupting the flow of people that have no idea what this game is and that are getting started with the game. If you look at Arcwing has never been properly finished, and because of that it has always been like forcefully taken around with every single big update in the game to try and like fit it in. We've had it with Second Dream, we've had it with War Within, we've had it with Plains of Eidolon, we've had it with Fortuna as like transportation things, and then we have it with Railjack. And as a result, like sometimes it worked with Fortuna, with the open worlds, like people really enjoyed the transportation of the Arcwings, so much so that it actually deteriorated the transportation which was intended to be there or was designed there, the K drives, or people just didn't care really much, which was in the quest, or it really kind of fucked around with Railjack, where either the Arcwings were so powerful at the beginning that like you could just ditch your Railjack and you could go out with your Arcwing, or like the Arcwing was improperly balanced that you get shot and killed right at the gates. It's like that's not a favorable situation for it to be. Like it would be much better if those things just like were a complete thing which could stand on its own. Because right now what you have is that because there have finished things which are just lingering around, even Conclave, which just kind of lingers around in like a state of like purgatory, it's just there, and it makes things more confusing than if it like wasn't there at all. Like let's say the thing that WoW had, where it was like it's on the cover, like but it's not anywhere to be found. Like it's one thing on the cover, it's nowhere to be found. Fine, it's just not there. Or something that's been like blanded. Like I don't think people really care anymore, or it doesn't really make a big impact that Carrier isn't the only vacuum sentinel anymore, because like things have changed. Fine, but these things just linger around and stick around until the next thing comes around, which is half finished, and then just gets added onto the pile. I think that's more egregious than the other two examples, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying, but the whole point of Universal Vacuum is homogenization. Mm-hmm. Right? The whole point of, like, not every player wants what is best for every other player.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every player thinks they know what they want, but in some instances they don't. People complain saying that they want challenge within Warframe, but they don't get it because when challenge does come about, nothing. Yeah, it's too difficult, I don't like it. Oh, like nullifiers are a classic example of this is a staple in the game. It is how it is. Nope, don't like it, to address it. Nope, don't like it, to address it. Nope, don't like it, to address it. You have to work on the stuff that people don't like. People don't like the fact that, you're not changing stuff, then people are not going to play the game, right? If you don't make your TV show big, glorious, and spectacular, they're not going to watch it. If you don't make your movie use a prettier looking hedgehog, they're not going to watch it.
Well, let's take the example of a TV show or a movie. Like, let's imagine that the Sonic Hedgehog movie just takes a random subplot, or like even like a TV show. First episode, they go into a plot, and then people say, we don't like it. So second episode, they go into another plot without even closing off the first one. They're like, oh no, we go into another plot. Every episode is like another plot that opens, is never closed, and it just causes a lot of confusion. In that case, I would argue that it's better for plots that people really didn't like to just not have been there, or for plots that people kind of had affinity with, to round off and complete so that it becomes at some form, like it forms a solid basis. Because right now we have a lot of things which are just like kind of being dragged around, and it's just so weird. And I think that Railjack was a climax of that situation.
You have described the sequel Star Wars trilogy to a T, right? People really liked the Force Awakens, right? J.J. Abrams said, I'm not going to do another one. Rian Johnson comes in, I don't like those plot elements. and just completely destroyed them. Right?
Mhm.
People hated The Last Jedi, so Disney get J.J. Abrams back. J.J. Abrams goes, "Oh, I don't like what Ryan Johnson did," and then his first plot points come back. The whole trilogy makes no sense. It is the only Star Wars trilogy. Yes, there's only 3 of them. It's the only Star Wars trilogy where the third movie did worse than the second one.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
People didn't watch Rise of Skywalker because they weren't listening to the audience. They were just fucking about. You know, oh, look, people liked the first one because it had J.J. Abrams. No, people liked the first one because it reflected the original trilogy a lot more than the prequel trilogy. Right?
Yeah. Well, I believe with Star Wars, it's also like people saw the first one because like they didn't have any like the things that they had to go by were the originals and like the prequels, and then like there were people that already were like the third. Like I never saw the episode 8 or whatever. Like after like the first of the sequels or something, I was like, I don't care.
You didn't watch the train wreck that was Last Jedi?
No, because I thought it was like already when I saw the first one, I already felt it was a hype thing. It was like it didn't feel like a genuine like follow through of the story. Just I was like, nope, this is not for me. I'll leave it at 6.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? I was okay with the 7th. I preferred the 7th more than I preferred episode 3. I thought episode 3 was awful, right? But episode 6 was a travesty. Regardless, the point, let's go back to Warframe, right? The point is, I do not think you can leave the player base with nothing for the next several months, regardless of the fact that, oh god, we brought up earlier, Nightwave Intermission 2 has now been running longer than season 2 of Nightwave. Regardless to that fact, I do not think you can leave the Warframe player base with nothing to do just to fix Railjack. I would rather Railjack be fixed slower and get stuff that they have specialized in, especially like the bloody events, and sort that stuff out and bring Railjack up par slowly as time goes on, rather than let's just put all our eggs back into Railjack.
Right. Well, there are 2 things which I want to say on that. Number one is when it comes to what you say that like it would either it would take a couple of months with no content when they fix Railjack, or like it would take more months but then with things in between. It's like, how is it possible that something is released which requires months of work in order to get it to a proper form? Like it just adds to insanity that thing that the thing was released at the time that it did, if it requires so many months of work to fix it. Like that's just mind-boggling to me. Like you would
I get that.
Yeah.
We don't know why they released Railjack at Christmas, right? It could be that was the original release date that they had months prior, and that they had booked everything in to be that, and then scope creep just derailed it. It could have been that they got pressure from the board of executives saying like, no, you need to get something out for Christmas. It could have been, they put it out on a gamble because they needed the community to help railroad them into completing the product. It could have been, whoops, my finger slipped. It could have been on a dare. It could have been like, I bet you $1,000 that we'll release Railjack on time at the games show and the Game Awards. Sorry, And it could have been for any reason that they had released Railjack. I'm gonna be honest. I think that there is no point in speculating why they released it the way they did, because fact is it's happened. We don't know the answer. They have apologized for the state that it came out in. What were you gonna say?
Well, I haven't seen about that, because that's kind of my point too. Is that like if something has been messed up so badly, like then like there needs to be a we did an oopsie because of this, and we have learned from this, and it won't happen again. Because otherwise,
Well,
we're
they did.
guaranteed
It
we
was
have.
in the
Where
was in the
it?
first Devstream of the year.
Okay, I didn't see that, but yeah, right, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I get it. You don't watch the dev stream. I don't know how many people here watch the dev. Can we do a poll? Can we just get a quick poll up?
Sure.
How many people here watch the dev streams? Like, I feel that, yeah, there is a substantial majority of players that do not. I mean, yeah, we only get what, like 40, 50,000 people watching the dev streams when they happen. I mean, and we've got like 50 million players, so it's tiny percentage. So, oh man, my name's yellow. Sorry, distracted. Apologies. So, I think that it's difficult. Like, how many times do you have to apologize for? How many different forms do you have to apologize? Do you have to put it like a whole blog post on the main page? Do you have to put it on Twitter? Do you have to make a dedicated YouTube video? The problem is, if you apologize too much, people expect bigger efforts of apology.
Now, the thing that I expected is start with like a sigh, like, and then just start crying endlessly, and then like make another apology, and then do 45 minutes of a video where they show all the receipts. No, in all honesty,
the receipts.
Oh, did you not follow like 2019 has been like the YouTube drama year, where people come out as like the with the worst possible dramas that make terrible apology videos or terrible responses, and then a couple months later they come back with like a 45-50 minute video where they show all the texts and like text messages and like pictures and all the proof that they were actually just in the right, and it was just people going nuts and like lying about them.
Really?
Yeah, Pro Jared and what
was it? No, you can stop
Charles?
that one. You could just stop with Pro Jared. Okay, that's fine. I don't.
Yeah. So like receipts, man. But anyway, in all honesty, I don't think you have to like do it everywhere. It's just that like, I mean, yeah, sure, my mistake for not watching the dev stream. That being said, when like I have heard like from other people from the dev stream, like we even did the what was it, the Arbiter Summit. I did read the dev stream like rundown. But
yeah.
like from everything which I've heard about that dev stream, I didn't hear anyone say, hey, they said they fucked up. They said they that they released it because of this, and that they've seen that didn't work and they won't do it again. Because that's what an apology is. A good apology is not just saying I'm sorry, because like we've seen that with Blizzard saying like, oh, we're sorry, you feel sorry. It's like, no, I just saying I'm sorry doesn't mean anything. An apology says I am sorry, like I didn't mean to do that. I know what I did wrong. Like you point out what you did wrong, and then you show that you've learned from it, so that we know that like, oh, you didn't do that by choice. You see that it's wrong, and we now know that you won't do it again. If you just say I'm sorry, it's like it doesn't mean nothing, and it didn't come forward.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words. No, I completely appreciate that. I mean, I've been in a number of instances where friends of mine will turn around and say like, oh, I feel hurt that you've done this thing. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that you feel hurt. I'll try not to do it again. But like, they are hurt by a natural habit of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know this episode, I have interrupted you a lot. I've been very strong and vocal on my points and opinions, and I have cut you off don't know how many times, probably like I'm gonna say a dozen, right? I'm sorry for it, but I think it's important that I do it this time.
I really like it because I go back to the episodes and I absolutely hate it that I feel like I talk a lot. And that's the thing. It's like I don't want to like I also have a personality that I tend to like take over conversation a bit because I like speaking. I like talking, but I also like listening. So that yeah.
So I do share everyone's concern that Railjack isn't gonna get a look in. That Railjack isn't going to see the light of day. But I think realistically, Railjack is something that the game is going to live with for months, if not years, where stuff is just generally, not genuinely, generally added to it. Like, when you
like Arcwing.
you can't. Okay.
Yeah, but
Right.
this is the thing
No, I
when
get that.
this is the thing when it comes to like like they'll learn from it. They don't have to apologize. They'll learn from it. It's like they've already did this thing with Arcwing. They've already done this thing before with Conclave, with all these things where it's like they've done it before and like saying like, oh, they say they're sorry, they won't do it again. It's like, well, like you said it last time.
No, I get where you're coming from, but I don't think. I'd like to think that it's not the same situation with Railjack as it is Arcwing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arcwing, no one liked for a multitude of reasons, be it the 6 degrees of freedom or the lack thereof, the weird mechanics with the weaponry, the fact that when you aim down sights, everything disappears. The fact that there was so many weird niggly hiccups with Arcwing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The UI has been the biggest perpetrator to Arcwing's poor reception, but nearly everyone dropped Arcwing like a sack of shit. Like, nope, that is disgusting. I don't want that anywhere near me. But with Railjack is like the best thing I can describe it as is a Warhammer 40k model, right? That was put together with Pritt sticks, so it's falling to pieces, and it doesn't have a base coat of paint. Is missing a head.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just purple. It's just purple, right? Whereas, so we have respect of what Railjack could be, but it's nowhere near there yet. And I think that attention to detail from the community is what could see Railjack to completion.
I'm wondering about that though, because I think that like we're going harsh on Railjack, on Arcwing, which is like. We know what happened with Arcwing over the long run because we're 5 years after it's been introduced. I don't specifically remember as much from when it was introduced, like how quickly people dropped it and stuff like that. I can't make objective, accurate, like response to that. Like I can't. So like I'm going on what you said, but I feel like there might be a possibility that maybe it was more similar to what we have right now with Railjack, but we see it worse because we're 5 years later and we know that it hasn't never really picked up. Because I do think that what Arcwing had going for Railjack right now is, number one, it had more than one mission type, which is definitely something which our Railjack doesn't have. And it had, it was far more in line with the Warframe gameplay than Railjack is. Yesterday I saw a tweet go out by Broseam where a lot of people responded upon where he talked about the co-op element within Warframe, which he saw especially limiting towards Railjack, but also potential raids, where most of these elements don't necessarily really work unless you play with friends. In general, like you do not see the Warframe community necessarily jump on it. Now, I do have to give some way to I do have to give something in favor of Railjack, is that because it only has one mission type, it doesn't really stack very well against the regular Warframe gameplay, so you can't necessarily say whether people aren't playing it because it's more dependent on other players, or because there's only one mission type and people get bored of it. So maybe that's it. But I do believe that one thing that Railjack has is that Warframe has been over the years very much conditioned to be a very bite-sized gameplay loop. It's been very much focused towards 5 minutes at max and then be out. Like even like the survivals, the longer missions, which normally were like very encouraged, especially with tower keys, try to get as much reward out of a key, has now been like, you can do it for 5 minutes and you won't lose anything, as opposed to the people that go for 3 hours. Maybe like some boosters, but who cares? So Warframe has very much been conditioned to be like a quick in and out gameplay style, where it's like you jump in, you jump out, you jump in, you jump out, and there's very little responsibility on that. So like if you jump into a public mission, like you either have people that work with you, or like you'll be gone from them in like 2 minutes time, or you just leave and you go into another mission. Right now, when you then compare that to like Railjack or raids, things that require co-op, that's an entirely different beast than like these things that the game conditions you to. Like, it's more like you are stuck with these people and you really got to depend on each other, and this is something which will last for longer. And that is something which, like...
Right.
Go ahead.
So, like, I just want to check with you.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a direct comparison between the trial system and Railjack?
In tweet? Or...
In Brozim's tweet.
I'm not quite sure. He did mention like raids, but I don't know necessarily whether, like, sure, let's go with it. Like, I'm don't quote me on this, but like, yeah, there could have been a comparison with.
No, I'm trying to. So okay, the genuine reason I think, the trial system flat out failed for Warframe.
Mm-hmm.
Is for no other reason than it required you to create an 8-player group.
Yeah.
Anyone that has ever made a raid, right? So you can't pubby it in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that has ever made a raid will tell you it takes longer to make the raid than to do the raid.
But isn't that a symptom of the same problem?
No, I do not think it is at all. The problem for Railjack is, even though there is public matchmaking, the complexity of what you have to do, the different tiers of progression, requires you to communicate in a way that the game does not provide. Warframe, for the trials, didn't facilitate any way for you to do the trial. As soon as you got into a trial group, which is what the whole raiding school bus was about, bam, you could easily do it, right? You could easily talk in chat and things like that. Except for maybe the Jordis verdict, that was a little headfucky. But with Railjack, you don't know what your team... Well, I mean, you do now. You didn't used to know what your teammates were even doing. You didn't know if you were on the Railjack by yourself. If everyone else got out into Archwing, it now tells you that. It doesn't tell you if anyone's doing the... But it now can convey a minimum level of detail to the other players. I mean, the fact that when you were piloting, you never saw your teammates on the right-hand side of your screen, that's been fixed now. Brilliant. But I would no way, shape, or form say that you can make a comparison between the difficulties in Railjack and the difficulties in the raid system.
I think,
yeah, I mean,
I think you can, because I think it comes towards investment. It's like, are you willing to invest time to sit into like a recruiting chat, to create a game, or to create a raid, like to host a raid, or to join a raid, and are you willing to get a group together and then go do it? And like the participation rate of that was so low that like it was very scarce to find 8 people in just a recruiting chat. Thus, people had to reach out to communities like the Raid School Bus, where enthusiasts would actually have like a more concentrated group of people that were actually invested in it to do it, rather than a general chat where people weren't invested in doing it, because it required, like, doing a raid required so much more investment to do rather than just a regular mission that people.
So what's the comparison with Railjack?
Well, Railjack also requires more investment because it will take longer. It requires you to be more invested in the teammates that you have because you need to trust them that they do their job because like they need to do their job. You need to have like this right team that works. And you, as far as I'm aware, you don't yet have like this extraction mechanic where it's like if you are in like a 4-player public Railjack and one person like people want to go on and just do another mission and you want to get out, you're gonna have to like exit abort the mission. I think you do keep your rewards, but I don't think the squad is resupplied. So it's like there's way more investment again into doing a Railjack mission than there is in the general conditioned Warframe gameplay. So it's not that that like the raids and Railjack suffer the same problem. Like their issues are different, but it's coming from the same issue of conditionment into there's no general investment that you have to do within Warframe in order to do something because you're conditioned into just doing like less than 5-minute runs and you can quit at any time.
I disagree. Like, I think the whole reason why game mode arbitration does better than Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, I hate to say this, is because you have this whole incentivized staying in the mission for as long as possible because you get the best amount of rewards from just playing. Whereas with Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, which is the whole incentivized 5 and out, you know, like that's seen no form of improvement in the slightest. Right? I can see where you're coming from, that there is a difficulty of having to rely on people to do the objectives and things in the trials. Yeah, I totally get that. And there was no real way for the game didn't teach you about standing on pressure pads or following the yellow cable on the floor. I get that. But still, right, the difficulty of the trials was not the mission itself, which is the problem for Railjack. The difficulty of trials was just getting the people together, right? I mean, yeah, you could argue you've got to trust people not to fuck up all the time. Like, trusting people to help you do your lich. Nope, no one does liches because they're boring.
Yeah, but both come from investment. Like, in order to form a group to form a public group within for a raid, you need people that are invested enough that say, instead of just jumping in a quick in and out mission, I want to like go for the effort to set up a group. And you need to have people that are actually actively within recruiting chat that are looking for a group. If you do not have if you do not have people that are ready to like invest a little into a mission to like form a group, you're gonna have greater difficulty to form a group. And it's like that's not what happens with Railjack, but it's again an investment issue. People are not in this game. You're not encouraged to be invested into something. I think arbitrations may be an exception because they're like an outlier, because it's like the one kind of like endgamey content that we have, whereas ESO was kind of put in as this kind of endgamey see how far you get thing, but has really been like slammed down to do 1 or 2 waves and then get out, because like that's what people are generally doing.
Even so, right, we have the whole investment of Railjack. Yes, okay, Railjack is an income product, you have to invest into it, fair enough. But you could just go, right, okay, well, hey everyone, let's do a PSA. When you're doing a Railjack mission, always go back to your dojo. That will remove this problem of people coming in and out. I mean, that's it. I mean, it doesn't take anything to resolve that niggly problem. But, there was so much that was at fault with trials.
Well, like the reason that I bring up the investment problem is because we were talking about like Arcwing and Railjack, and I think that Arcwing is way more closely aligned to the general Warframe gameplay where there is little investment, which like every time things with like a higher requirement of investment are introduced into Warframe, we see a substantially less interest from the community within it, because it doesn't really tend to work with the general player base that doesn't like to go for long periods of time, that doesn't like to like put a lot of like it bite size. That's what they've been touting. However,
but it's so interesting that you say this, because we have the same player base that kick off saying, "We want challenge, we want challenge, we want challenge." It's like, oh, but we have to do it within 5 minutes, and it can't be anything more difficult than what we already have, right? We want challenge, we want challenge. Like, you can't have one and not the other. You can't have something that requires investment and it not be a challenge. Sorry, you can't have something that's
but you have to deal with this if your prerogative is to follow the will of the community. If the way that you develop, if the way that you go for what you're doing is to follow what's on the forefront of the community, then you have to go along with that. And like they have very actively been promoting the bite-sized content. That's been a huge point.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes in and out. So it's like the thing that I'm saying. And this is kind of like where I bring the Archwing thing that I mentioned and like bring this to a close to like what my point really is that with Archwing being so much more aligned to Warframe itself and that failing, like I think that if you were to like objectively stack Railjack and Archwing and look at like how closely they are reliant to the general gameplay and just look at how much like investment they require from the player base and how much it differs, it's like Archwing is so much more closer aligned to the general Warframe gameplay than Railjack is like, why would Railjack then have a greater chance of succeeding than Archwing? And isn't it that we just look at Archwing in a negative way because it's been 5 years and we haven't seen it change? And if that's the case, then like how can you be so hopeful about Railjack?
I disagree. I do not think that Archwing has the same imperative directive of investment that normal Warframe has. One of the biggest complaints about Archwing when it first came out was we couldn't use our regular weapons in Archwing. The next biggest complaints, we couldn't use any of our mods when we went into it. It was a fresh new start. Now Railjack is not too dissimilar, but the big difference with Railjack is you still have your max fantasy overpowered Warframe, right? You can still go on to enemy bases, stations, asteroids, whatever, and you can still kick a truck ton of ass and take all the name, right? Archwing, you have to get everything from scratch. Archwing was one of the biggest things that they did in favor of Archwing was give us the weapons through the Syndicate. How you got them before was tedious and painful, right? But the problem for Archwing was it was done too late, and they removed all of the incentive to actually do the mission, right? We don't have the incentive as of yet for Railjack, something that they need to introduce into the game. But Railjack came in with no incentive. It was just go do the prelude quest thing. That was it. That was the only incentive for myself, and then the other people that of dissimilar interest was get the sentient arm cannon. That was it, right? Railjack came in with no goal in sight.
I do want to say though is that I think Railjack kind of follows the same problems with that to a certain degree, especially in the beginning. So yes, you do have your Warframe, your fully modded Warframe, which is cool. But for the large majority of the mission, which is always going to be an exterminate mission, you need to use your Railjack guns. You need to use your Archwing if you want to eliminate the fighters. And as the video said, and I've seen the video as Railjack, if you progress through the Railjack systems, if you progress and you build it out, it can become quite a powerful thing. But if you start out like your guns are overheating so freaking fast, they don't do a lot of damage. It just feels like you have this big, slow thing, which is kind of like doesn't really do much. And then at that point, like the Xandy tactic of like using your Archwing makes more sense because it's more effective in killing things when you're starting out with your Railjack. You can better use your Archwing, but that's only if you actually bother to like rank up your Archwing. And if you are very much deterred, which I can very much understand that a lot of people were, because it deters me a little bit as well when like you have to start up with a brand new mod system with this thing with Archwing, and they also do a brand new thing with like Railjack. It's like, if you aren't a person that's invested in that, then you probably weren't with Archwing, so your Archwing is also gonna suck. So then you're gonna be stuck in like your first impressions of Railjack are just gonna be like, I'm finding these things, but my Railjack is useless, my Archwing is useless. Only if they board will it be fun, but you can't just like play Railjack by just finding the enemies that are boarding you. And that's not me saying things need to be easier. I just think that one of the flaws with Railjack, and I think Archwing too, to that regard, is that when you start out Warframe, even if you have nothing, you still slay the Grineer in the tutorial quest. Like, you still go around, kill everything. You don't do that with Railjack, and you don't do that with Archwing. And that.
But Railjack and Archwing are not the start of the game. I'm like, you're saying that you don't want.
But they
them
are when it comes to mods and progression systems. Like, they are a brand new system.
Okay, fine, they're a brand new system, but you are aware of how the rest of Warframe works. You said 2 seconds ago that you didn't want them to make the systems easier, but then what do you want?
So what
You're raising.
So the thing is like they performed an economy reset with the mods. Like, they could have also just very well said the arc guns use the same mods as your regular guns, but you just have some Archwing variants. In that case, it's still in the same line of progression. But instead, they say none of the mods that you have apply. So you're going to have to farm brand new. You're going to start from brand new with brand new equipment. Nothing applies that you've had before. That's a brand new reset. That could be a start of a brand new thing. So, like, at that point, you need to, like, invoke, at least in the first 2 missions, the same idea that you did, like, at the start of the game, where it's like, okay, this thing that you have, you can kill things with it, and then you can get some mods that make it better, and then you can move on and ramp up the difficulty, because at that point people understand how the thing works because they've done it before. But if you give someone that has been playing forever and ever and is super powerful as a Warframe, you give them a Railjack, you give them nothing to play with, and in the first mission they do, they get slaughtered. It's like, yeah, well, I hate that. Like, I can very much understand that people get that approach from it, because, like, it's a complete reset, and it doesn't, like it's like, here you go. Now just good luck farming those mods.
So no, but wait. So you're saying, right? Help me understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that when you enter your Railjack, you should be able to use mods that you previously have gotten from playing the game to improve your Railjack?
No, I'm saying that if you do a reset like this with Railjack or Archwing, where you start out with a completely new system, something brand new, then the first mission, at least, needs to be a mission where, like in the tutorial mission, you can slay enemies and feel reasonably powerful whilst doing it, so that you have a feeling of what this can be. So it's the first mission, and you can only get like 1 or 2 like medium mods. Like, it doesn't have to have great rewards.
But that is how it is.
No,
right?
It's not.
Well, it is. The only difference is right now is you're comparing it to what you can do right now compared to, like, you couldn't just one-shot enemies in the starting missions,
well,
right? You had to open up a clip on them.
Well, you could do an entire mission on Mercury, well, like, or Earth now. I still feel Mercury is the starter planet. Perhaps I had some thumbs up if you feel about it. But you could just go in that and complete that as a solo player when you were there without anything. Like, you could do that because it was very easy. You didn't get a lot out of it. Maybe you had to like empty a clip on it, but that was fine. If you go and try and do that with Railjack on your very first mission, you will not be able to do it.
Now, my question to you, is that because you're playing on your own or because you have nothing? Because if your answer is nothing, I completely disagree with you. I had zero issue playing Railjack with my team of friends, right? My team of friends that had started out just like I did, right? They had nothing just as I did, but, you know, we had fun, we killed the shit, we were in the ship, we left, you know, end of.
However, do you not, like the thing which I think is very important in there is that, like, this is like a break from the general Warframe gameplay. in the sense of like the fact that you're doing that with friends in a 4-man squad where everyone is like in voice chat having fun is a difference from like what Warframe generally conditions you, where it's like just jump in and jump out, where it's like you play by yourself, jump in, jump out. I think that the generality of missions are people just jumping in, jumping out, not even like knowing the names of the people they play with.
Okay, that I get and I agree with. One thing I would certainly want Warframe to do, and I think it would be a huge boom for Discord, is I would like it that Warframe would give you the opportunity to jump into a Discord call with the other 3 players that you were playing with. I totally get that. I'm in a position of privilege where I can just have anyone from my Discord, from my community that I have built up over the years, jump in with me, and I don't have to talk to general chat. I don't have to talk to recruiting chat. I get that. I have that privilege, and thus I can understand other people that find that investment to be frustrating and exhausting. I can't see there's, but at the same time, they have always advertised that Railjack is the cooperative thing. It is, the thing that requires other people to interact with each other. Yeah, I mean, I had a work colleague, right? Started Warframe like a month ago and got bored because he was on Earth. All the new players with him just bolted off. They did the mission. It's gone. Bye. Extracted. Like, you didn't get to see or do anything. Right?
Right. So, like the thing is that I feel with that is I think it's fine that it's a like co-op thing, and I think that like I would like for longer missions. I would like for more engaging missions. I would like for more difficult missions. I would like for more requirement of like a set make a team with 4 people thing. But the generality of Warframe, like the overwhelming majority of Warframe right now has been like consciously with intent made into like this bite-sized thing where people can jump in and out without having to interact. So like having to swap from like this one thing which you've actively been pushing your game towards, where it's like you don't have to think about the other players, they're just kind of there, you just go in and go out, you don't have to do much, and then go over to like then have them go over and like accept this new thing where it's like now you have to invest things, or like Nvidia, the way that Nvidia says like a solid 20 to 40 minutes per mission, and then you have to like invest in other teammates, then you have to like do this as a co-op thing, like expecting that switch to happen like without any transitional period in between, just being like, well, boom, here you go, and now enjoy this. It's like that's years of conditioning, like swapping out into a day. It's like that's not gonna work, and that's why I feel when it comes to the comparison with Railjack and Archwing, is that like Archwing was so much more aligned with that thing that they've been pushing over and over again than Railjack is. That I just like I don't know how easy this is to accept, like how easy this thing is to accept, because it's so different than the thing that's constantly been pushed. So that's where my worry lays, where it's like, yes, I see that this is what they're desiring for. I see that this is the thing that they're pushing for, but it's a big culture shock from what you have been pushing out and what you've been training people to expect and training people to like.
Then I think it is really dependent on the community, right? How much does the community care about Railjack? Do they see it as, what did I describe Archwing as? I can't remember. A sack of shit. That was it.
Yeah.
Do they see Railjack as a sack of shit that they couldn't give a toss about and just throw out the window and land on someone's car, or do they see it as something that it could excel to become? Right? I mean, hell, who knows? They might turn around and actually improve the in-game chat system to the point of, hey, everyone, let's just use the in-game chat system. Right? Mm-hmm. I do know people that use the in-game chat system. Mm-hmm. Right? When they play together, they use the in-game chat system. It gets a little bit, oh, wait, no. I take that back. That player was playing Overwatch. Never mind. But
However, okay, so the reason why I think that, but why I put so much importance towards like having this thing flow into like having this player type flow into like Railjack with a little bit more ease than just like a flip of a switch, where it's like, now this is co-op and takes longer than what we've trained you to do, is because if you're training people to do one thing and expect them to do another thing right away, it's like they're not going to like that, generally speaking. Of course, there are going to be people that like it. However, the generally accepted thing, like generally, the majority will not like it if you condition them for years to do one thing and expect them to do another thing. Now, that doesn't necessarily matter, except for we started out discussing about like the way that Warframe develops is that they go by what the majority, what's on the minds of the majority, what the majority likes. So if the majority doesn't like the thing that you put out, it doesn't matter how different it is. It actually just matters how different it is. Because if it's too different and the majority doesn't like it, then it won't be developed further, because you have this thing where only the majority vote matters. So it's like, it's so important then that you make sure that the majority has this easier flow in, even if it comes to the sacrifice of 1 or 2 missions, because like this is the way that you set yourself up with development.
Right. So the point is that Railjack, Arkwing, Pets 2.0, pick a system. It is trying to be something different from the norm, right? Mm-hmm. Operators, the focus talent trees, blah, blah, blah. You pick something. It is supposed to break from the norm, the core game design, where you had a player in their Warframe with a center, right? Now, the entire player, well, not the entire player base, a large number of the player base whinge continuously. What's it called? Oh god, vacuum! What? Make universal vacuum! Make universal vacuum! Make universal vacuum! I want homogenized content. People get excited for Railjack, but what they want is more of the same crap. They have their sack of shit. They like their sack of shit. They want every sack of shit to be the same sack of shit. I should probably use buckets instead. But, and the whole point is that if you want something new and interesting, you have to go beyond what you're used to. If you're not prepared to accept something for what it could be, something new, something interesting, if you're only prepared to accept something for what you're expecting, you're never going to get anything new. Hence The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm. However, the fact that like the reason why that matters is because they actually decides to follow the majority vote. Like that's what they do, and I think that also a part, like you can on one hand blame like the general player base for not liking change, but like they've been playing this way for 7 years, and for 7 years this has been actively like pushed as the main agenda: be bite-sized, be quick in and out. Like if they had focused more on making missions longer or making varieties on missions which required like more infested co-op gameplay, then like it would have been easier to make
arbitrations, Elite Sanctuary Onslaught.
Well, Elite Sanctuary Onslaught doesn't do that. Trials have been taken out. Arbitrations could be the one thing, but they've been lowered to like level 60 instead of like they eased that out to make it more bite-sized.
Yeah, I know. But that's the point, right? They keep trying, but the players complain,
but they
and it
keep
gets
perpetuating. They okay. So like, if you state that you want your game to be bite-sized, it's like you continue to train your player base to like that bite-sized content, and then you can't be surprised if they complain because it's not that content.
So you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As you, mm-hmm. right? You are Mr. CEO of Digital Extreme.
Mm-hmm.
You are responsible for, say, 300 employees, mm-hmm. right? You have to make sure that at the end of the month, they get the paycheck,
mm-hmm.
right? Otherwise, you have to start firing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've had experience with AAA developers that have bitten you in the ass, right? Oh, we have to add this stuff to it. No, you are making the product, you're putting scope creep on the product. You've given us a deadline. We can't meet the deadline, right?
Mm.
Look at Star Trek, right? That was a mess and a half. Just look at Angry Joe's review of it. Train wreck, right? Same studio that made Warframe, right? So you have to make sure everyone has a wage at the end of the month. Your wage comes directly from your customers, your consumers, your player base. So the more players you have, the more opportunity that they will spend money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a fairly obvious statement, right? So if you tell your players, right, no, we're making it harder, fuck off, right? How do you think the players would react?
I think they would react the same way if I were to make everyday Warframe videos and center my entire YouTube channel around Warframe, and then make a video one day say, I quit Warframe, fuck this game, I'm never gonna do this anymore. People stop watching, people stop coming around, because you turn around all out of the blue.
People stop playing, right? So if there are fewer people playing, what does that mean?
Well, less income.
There's less income, which means
you gotta start firing people.
You gotta start firing people, which you hopefully don't want to do.
Well, if you don't want to do that, then the way that you should do that is, well, let's just use the example of like the YouTube channel entirely focused on Warframe, is like, if you make every single day a Warframe video for years and years on end, and then all of a sudden you say, I want you guys to start liking this random piece of content, like, can you really be surprised that people will be like, oh, well, fuck that, I don't like that? It's like, because you've been conditioning them for 7 years to do the same thing and watch the same thing over and over again. But what you could have done is one day of those 7 days, produce something which was the thing that you ultimately want to do. And then maybe the next year, do it 2 days a week instead of like 7 days. So you have 5 days Warframe, 2 days thing, and that and then you condition people more generally into liking the thing which you ultimately want to swap to. If you like the same thing with Warframe applies, if you are like for years and years on end, like pronouncing that bite-sized is the thing that you want in your game, that you're propelling in your game, and then like you try out something else which doesn't work because it's not bite-sized, like, yeah, can you be surprised?
Okay, but like they've done bounties in the plains, right? That's longer general content. They've done arbitration. They've done Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, where you're supposed to get as high as you possibly can. No one goes beyond 4, when the best stuff is at 8. You know, survivals, void keys, right? They had they've added in loads of different the endless missions for void fishers, right? Mm-hmm. No one goes up to 5 when you get the best reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they give in plenty of incentives to stay as long as you want, but people don't want to stay longer. So you can either force them to stay longer, or you have to change. But you proposed mere moments ago that what you should do is go, right, 1 day a week is this new thing over here. The other 6, Warframe. Then a year's down the line, it's like 2 days a week, it's a new thing. And then 5 days, Warframe, right? Almost like Railjack, Kuvalicious. Railjack, Pets 2.0. Railjack, Operation. Railjack, Tenocon.
Right. Well, I would say that that's similar, except for if you go for a year making the one video of the week, making that as an incomplete video that doesn't have editing and a correct intro and substance to it, you can't really expect people to like it. And then you like, if you want people to like roll into it, you got to make sure that's fixed to a point where people can actually be like, right, this is something that I want to watch. It's like, yeah, like you can't expect people to roll into it if it's not something that's out there.
Finished? Well, okay, so here's the choice, right? As we have brought this up, I think this is probably the 3rd time we brought this up now. They can either not produce anything on the side and go full ham on Railjack, and we could probably expect it in, I do genuinely think, a complete product in 4 to 5 months if they did nothing else, or if they continue to release bite-sized things. No, Mike. If they continue to do bite-sized things like the events, like the new weapons, like my microphone stopped going up. There we go. Then we could probably see a complete Railjack by next year, right? But the thing is, do you want to entertain your audience, or do you want to, just get this big shiny thing done, right? And have them do nothing for a year. Sorry, for 4 to 5 months, right? I think it's so much more important to ease them into it because they've already reacted so negatively towards Railjack.
I do have to agree that, like, I think that right now with this situation, it is better to move on, because I don't think that in general people will be very excited for Railjack releases. It's like, for me right now though, it's just that I don't really have much faith in anything that they announce until things actually come out, because the way that I see it at the moment is that they announced something 2 years ago, which isn't in the state that they announced it 2 years ago. So what's there to say to me that New War will be out before TennoCon 2020? I don't have much faith in that. Let's say that happens, then we still have Planes of the Fury that's going to be announced for a second time with still incomplete Railjack, and what they're going to announce on TennoCon 2020. And then we still have two systems, which, one which needs to come out, one which still needs to be fixed, and maybe New War doesn't make it, so we still have New War, which we're waiting on, and then we have new things that are being announced, and it's we just keep on announcing things. We just keep on announcing things, and it just doesn't end.
So one thing I feel part of the problem is how capitalism works. It's always, oh god, what was it? The Command and Conquer mobile game that EA announced, right? That wasn't for what's the name of the damn? That wasn't for the players. That for the investors, right? Diablo Immortal. That wasn't for the players. That was for the investors, right? It was for the people to go, oh, this could increase the value of the company so much that I would make more money. Therefore, I shall invest. It's become such a ridiculous game of, how to swindle people out of their money. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get new announcements at TennoCon only to appease the investors, right? To make sure that people continue to invest money in DE stocks, which I don't think is a negative thing for the company, but it's certainly a negative thing for long-term players. I think it is important for people to take breaks from Warframe. And I think one of the biggest problems that you and I and Brozim and Quiet Shy and Joey Zero and Zandy Pants, the problem that we very much suffer from as content creators is that we are on the cutting edge of the new stuff, right? As soon as the new stuff drops, we're there, right? Why? Because we've run out of the other stuff. We've done all the other stuff, or we've done all that we care about, right? I don't care about the K drives until level 30 MR 30 is possible. That is the only time I will do the K drive MR stuff. Yeah, I feel that it is important for the players that DE does not announce anything new at TennoCon 2020. I think it is important for the players to only elaborate on what we've already had. I am super saddened by the fact that even though I might not look it, maybe I look more irate than anything else. Maybe I just look British, right? But I am super saddened to the fact that we didn't get
New
oh crap. Thank you. At Christmas. Right? But at the same time, I now appreciate why companies like DE and why Blizzard never used to give release dates. It was always, it'll come out when it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important. That is all I have to say.
I agree that's important, and that didn't happen with Railjack. And yeah, I actually don't really want to continue on that because like you close it off so well, and I'm like shit. Like there are points that I could continue on, but like do I really want to? I don't know.
So should we just open it up to questions?
Well, I think that we could. Yeah. I mean, if people want to have questions, yeah, let's do questions. If you guys have questions, feel free to post them in chat. Let's do questions first, and then we'll do the fun thing. Anyway, if you guys have any questions coming around to Warframe, towards any random thing within Warframe, or any random thing at all, like even completely unrelated to Warframe, feel free to post them in chat. And let us know. We'll try to answer them to the best of our abilities.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's for you, Michelle.
Oh no, I thought it was for you.
It's for you, Michelle. Like, do you want to join my clan for the operation?
Oops, I don't know, because I have my own clan which I started, so I don't know if I can leave that, but I will consider it.
But you could just leave it. I mean, just like you just be part of Framecast. Like there'll be me, you, Loz, Crash. You know, the 4 amigos. Get Joey involved, and then we'll be the 5 amigos.
Doesn't Joey have his own clan?
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, I got Crash as well, so.
Yeah, maybe we can even steal Mogami out of his own clan.
No, Mogami's not playing Warframe. He quit. So okay, so Jazzberry Jam.
No, if I leave the video, we'll have to the video will be all alone in my clan. So then the video, if I were to go, then the video would have to come with me.
Yeah, there we go. I got space. Yeah. Nvidia can come with. Job done. Right? Nvidia has spoken for Michelle. You're both joining Framecast. Right. Yes. So Jazzberry Jam asked, what operation, what did I miss? So at the during the Devstream, they teased a event. They teased 2 things. We never actually got to any other part of the event. Shh, stop it. Anyone that's listening is going to be wondering what the fuck's going on. Right, there we go. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trolling my microphone.
Microphone's going up and
down. So they teased 2 things coming. Operation Scarlet Spear. The Sentients have breached the Vale Proxima. Mm-hmm. Tenno squads in Railjack and on the ground must link up their operations to quell the invasion. So I think it's going to be a precursor to the thing that we saw at TennoCon last year, when the planes are just going to get flooded with Sentients. Or maybe we could even see them on Fortuna, or maybe both. That'd be awesome. Then the next thing is called the Deadlock Protocol. The Corpus are attempting a resurrection. Uncover secrets about their founder and end their plans with the new frame Protea in a newly remastered tile set. So they're redoing the Corpus ship tile set, and the narrative is that they're trying to resurrect the founder of the Corpus, which is actually really, really. So, but so they're doing an event, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. So so it is a trial for the squad link. So, which I don't know how much longer it will take after they do it, or maybe it will just be there and permanent. Yeah. Any other questions?
The video here asks, do the 2 of you think that DE will be capable of keeping up with all the avenues of content that they have promised to deliver on? Operations, Nightwave, big expansions, story missions, etc.
Personally, I don't think so. Which may sound really cynical or counterintuitive of what I've been preaching, but I think it is important for DE to maybe put out the breadcrumbs. I mean, one feature that they announced years and years and years ago, I think it was like back in 2014 during a Tenno live at PAX, was they were talking about the idea that players could actually submit quests to be put into the game, and then the game would develop that way. But I think the way that their quest system works is so janky as is that it would be too difficult to do. They would have to reinvent the whole quest system, quest part of the engine, to make that a possibility. I mean, we've got Tenogen, but I'd love to do new quests. I'd love to do new sounds, right? I mean, who would not love a content creator voiced operator, it's like a handler, like Teshin, or be awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm not like, as I've said earlier, I don't think they will. Like my worst fear is that when it comes to Warframe, like I've always thought it to be very interesting, like what's going to happen after Railjack. My worst case scenario, which I see as a possibility, is that they don't come back to Railjack, maybe improve one or two things, but they'll just leave it as it is. Then New War will not be out before TennoCon, and then we'll go into TennoCon, where they are going to announce New War again, where they're going to announce Planes to Free again, and then they're going to announce two new things because they got to announce new things as well, and then we have four things.
It would be one thing. It won't be two. If they did two, it would be suicide.
And then it would be four things which aren't even out yet, where the thing that was teased the previous 2 years is just dumped and not even looked at, and hasn't really added anything to the game. And then at that point, it's like, why do we even bother? Why do we even bother spending $2,000 to come and see this?
Well, do you mean why do I bother? But I think one thing to realize is that a lot of I've seen the word community like twice there. A lot of the content that they're producing right now, so like the new Corpus ship tile set, the event, which is Squad Link, these are all things that can be added in ultimately to Railjack, right? The Kuva Liches, they are supposed to appear on galleons in Railjack, right? The very first teaser for Railjack had us fighting on the new Corpus tile set, which we have not seen hide nor hair of since. The Squad Link, again, they teased that last year. So, they are working towards it, but I think we are getting bite-sized pieces for it to then ultimately be added to the bigger pot.
I hope so. I don't think there are any more questions, as far as I can see. So, moving on to one of the final topics of today, which is Framecast related, which is not related to Warframe, but Drew and I had a bit of a talk. And as you may have known, ever since Framecast 30, we do not have the Framecast highlights anymore. We will have a Xeno Codex coming up soon on Xeno's channel. We don't know when that might be, but you said somewhere.
I'm hoping March. I'm not pinning myself to anything because it's like I've been going through the script for the last 2 weeks, and I think I'm happy with it. So
cool. So Xeno Codex will be coming out on Xeno's channel instead of the highlights. So if you used to watch the highlights, they're no more, but you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. But last week we also had a guest come over, Livid Lion, which was a lot of fun. Like, I really appreciated he came over, and I thought it was a great deal of fun to have someone over, which wasn't necessarily from the Warframe community.
That neither of us knew.
Yeah, that neither of us knew. We never met the guy beforehand, and he was so nice, and he had so much more expertise about Temtem than either of us had. However, one thing that we were plagued by were a lot of live connection issues because his network connection was being worked on while the stream was happening. And that got us to wonder about how much do we care about like this thing being live streamed? If you're watching this on YouTube, you might not know, but the Framecast every week streamed live on Tuesday from 8 p.m. European time to 10 p.m. European time. We've done that from the start because we thought it would be fun. Like, if we record it, why not stream it live and then like also take questions from Twitch chat and stuff like that. But as like what we've also seen is a lot of connection issues and a lot of guests that might not be able to join during this time slot because they are occupied differently or they're in a different time zone. So we are considering the idea, we're entertaining the possibility of not doing the live shows anymore, but just uploading this as a podcast on YouTube so that we are more free in what we record. The Framecast would stay the same. It would just not be recorded live on Twitch, and instead like questions we'd probably like have to ask people to put questions in comment.
Yeah.
So
like the biggest push for this is that it will free up opportunities that we wouldn't necessarily have. So for example, like if I get home earlier from work, we could actually record it then. Or if I end up falling asleep and having a nap, there's not a huge deal because I could wake up 30 or 40 minutes later and then we do the recording. Michelle, I promise I'll try really hard not to do that. But again, likewise, right now we're recording in the middle of the work day for the US. It is currently 4 p.m. Well, it's nearly 4 p.m. for them. Mm-hmm. So again, they might say, yeah, I can do it, but it would have to be later. Or it could be on the weekend and still come out Wednesday. I mean, one of the big things for 10 o'clock is we typically record on Friday, but it doesn't go live until Monday. Mm-hmm. It just gives us more opportunity.
Yeah, so that's something we're considering, but we also I also really value what you guys think. So if you're live here in Twitch right now, what do you think? Do you
do a poll?
Yeah.
You got a poll. We'll lose the polls. Well, actually, no. We just use the YouTube polls.
Yeah, we can use those.
My plan all along, getting more people to use the poll. We'll see how many people vote. I will abstain from the. Are you trying to think what to write, or? I can still see you, Blaze. Eyes. How are we going, buddy? We're getting there?
Yeah, I'm kind of like an option like we're just starting the poll right now. So the poll, as you can see, is like would you mind if we didn't do the Twitch live Framecasts anymore? So I mind very much is like these are like my Framecasts. I don't want them to go anywhere. That's option number 1. I don't care is like I'd like them to be live, but I also like to watch them on YouTube. And number 3 is I would prefer not live, and I don't think a lot of people are gonna vote for that for the live things, but I'll also throw this as cards in the YouTube video, so you can choose as you're watching this as a video. You can choose whether you don't really care, whether you care a lot, or whether you think like, oh yeah, I'm totally down for like more opportunities which are freed up because it's not bound by a live schedule. So I really prefer this not to be recorded live.
You could have redone this. Actually, can we take that down? Because I would rather the questions be less, so the answers be less ambiguous. So like 1, keep doing on Twitch. 2, don't care. 3, just YouTube.
Sure. So do it on,
because I don't mind very much. Kind of. So I mind very much would be like. I don't understand what that is supposed to say.
So would you mind if we didn't do like so do you care very much? Like, is it like number 1, it's like I would really hate to see this go. This is my Framecast right now. I want it on Twitch and YouTube. The other ones I don't care. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with only YouTube.
Well, I mean, it'll always be on YouTube, but it's whether or not it's on Twitch.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, I hope the general just makes sense. Let's see. So far, we have 2 people, Jesper, Jam, and Blaze, that say we really like this to be live on Twitch. We have also 2 people, which are Nvidia and Steph, that say we don't really mind that much. I will also put this out on YouTube, and then we will consider on given the results from the community what we're gonna do beyond this with this information, because I do very much value what you guys think, and I know that partly for me it's also that the Framecast is one of the more consistent things I do on Twitch. Don't worry, I do want to try and provide more Twitch content in a sense, like see what's appropriate for this. But yeah. So if at some point the Framecast will not be live on Twitch anymore, we will let you know what the decision will be. So yeah, that's something which we wanted to talk with you about. If you have any opinions on it more than just a vote, if you want to like convince any of us from one point or the other, feel free to put that in chat or in the comments down below. Yeah, that's it. That's this point, maybe pretty much.
Cool. Right. So should we sign off then?
I think so. Yeah. I hope you guys
Right.
enjoyed.
Okay. So that's it for this week. We were going to talk more about other stuff, but we ended up talking so much about the state of Warframe. It's just woof. It's like time's gone by. So if you wish that you were here at the beginning, you unfortunate like 4 or 5 people earlier, please consider going to youtube.com/postmalonegames, where you can find the full episode in 24 hours time. I'm not going to announce the live thing because we don't know what's going to happen with that yet.
And announce the highlights because they're not here anymore.
They're not here anymore. But if you want to consider supporting either myself or Michelle, you can do so on Patreon. For Michelle, it is patreon.com/Michelle Postma.
Yeah.
And if you wish to consider supporting me for crazy adventures like the Xeno Codex and stuff, or even the Arbiter's assessments, all the money goes to the editors. None of it comes to me. Well, it comes to me, then it goes to them. Go to patreon.com/Xenogellion. XENOGELIO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I did that.